Captain Isaac Mercer, Enclave Armed Forces. Recording this in the brief calm before everything went loud. Project Purity sits ahead of me like an old monument pressed back into service. The Jefferson Memorial, what's left of it, still has that marble gravitas, even under floodlights and portable scaffolds. We've fortified the rotunda, stacked firing positions along the steps, and choked every approach with plasma turret lines. If the Brotherhood wants this place, they'll have to dig us out of it one body at a time. Command placed me over 3 squads today. Echo, Lance, and Vector. 32 men and women total. Good people. Trained. Focused. Too young to know what we lost at Raven Rock, but loyal enough to understand the weight of the uniform. I keep replaying that moment in my head. Static over the long-range uplink. A blinding burst of light where the mountain should have been. Then, nothing. Our command center, the last true arm of pre-war America, gone. Buried under its own bones. The president's voice, Autumn's directives, decades of continuity. Erased in a single catastrophic silence. I didn't let the men see it, but it hit me harder than I expected. Raven Rock wasn't just a base. It was the symbol of continuity. Proof that something of the old world still lived, still remembered who we were supposed to be. Now it's rubble, and all that's left of our government is whatever we can hold in our hands. And today, that's this facility. Captain Mercer, Sergeant Cole called out earlier, snapping me from my thoughts. Vector squad's in position along the waterline. We've got good visibility on the basin. Keep them spread, I told him. Brotherhood loves to bunch up their heavy infantry. Don't give them a clean shot. He gave a tight nod, one of those small gestures soldiers use to hide nerves, and jogged back to his men. The air here smells of chemical coolant bleeding from cracked purification pipes. The lights flicker from the constant draw of the temporary generators. Every time the rotunda hisses from a pressure release, a few of the younger troopers flinch. I can't blame them. The purifier still holds enough juice to turn this whole site into a localized sunrise if something ruptures. I paced along the upper platform this morning, watching squads lock down firing arcs. Plasma rifles braced, pulse grenades clipped, radios crackling quietly in their encrypted channels. A disciplined, controlled perimeter. As organized as anything the pre-war military drilled into its officers. A few soldiers asked about Raven Rock. I told them the truth, but only the part that keeps morale steady. Raven Rock fell, I said, but the Enclave didn't. We hold this ground because America doesn't get buried that easily. Some straightened up at that. Some nodded. Some swallowed hard. Holding this place means something, and they know it. Without Raven Rock, this project is one of the last pieces of the world we're trying to rebuild. And the Brotherhood? They don't want to preserve it. They want to strip it, dismantle it, claim it as some relic to lock behind their gates, like a trophy from a civilization they never understood. Not while I'm here. Not while we still have a flag worth fighting under. Comms said we'd get eyes on Brotherhood movement by midday. Scouts placed them well outside the basin, still regrouping after their losses at the Purifier months back. If they were smart, they'd wait. But they're stubborn, obsessed, and desperation is a hell of a motivator. Over the ridge, you can see the faint shimmer of dust, columns rising where armored boots march still far, still small, but growing. It's only a matter of time. I took one last walk along the interior platforms, checked defensive placements, mentally mapped fallback points. Every step echoed just a little too loud in the empty corridors. The Purifier hums beneath this facility like a heartbeat, steady and ancient. And for a moment, I let myself imagine what America could look like if we truly rebuilt this place. Restored the water, restored the nation, restored everything the war tried to erase. Then the radio crackled in my ear, dragging me back to the present. Captain Mercer, came a voice, Corporal Lynn from Echo Squad. Picking up movement across the basin, multiple heat signatures, marching formation. So it begins. Maintain positions, I answered. Eyes sharp. No one fires until I give the word. 32 soldiers. 3 squads. Holding the last American project that still matters. Raven Rock may have fallen, but as long as we hold this line, as long as we stand our ground, the Enclave still breathes, and until my last breath, I intend to keep his heat signature shimmering across the water. Too regular to be wasteland stragglers, too many to be anything but an organized advance. Then the silhouettes appeared. Brotherhood power armor. Dozens. Marching shoulder to shoulder, visors glinting in the last strips of daylight. The troopers beside me stiffened, whispering numbers under their breath. I heard one murmur, a quiet curse. Another tightened his grip around his plasma rifle until the servos whined. I lifted my binoculars, adjusting the lens. That's when I saw it. Far behind the armored line, taller than the crumbling skyline, framed by the broken bones of the memorial bridge, something vast moved. A shadow at first, a shape, a silhouette impossibly large, striding with mechanical certainty. Then the smoke parted in a long sweep of wind, and Liberty Prime stepped fully into view. I'm not ashamed to say I froze for a moment. I'd read the stolen field reports, seen grainy recon photos, heard the rumors about the Brotherhood resurrecting a pre-war relic, but nothing prepared me for the reality of it. 40 feet of American steel. Red, white, and blue markings, half faded, but unmistakable. Massive servos, burning white-hot from activation. His visor glowing brilliant blue, piercing through dust and smoke like a spotlight from a forgotten age. A symbol of American engineering, our engineering, being marched toward us under foreign hands. It hit me hard. Not fear, not exactly. A kind of betrayal. That machine was built by better men for a better purpose. To defend this nation. To serve the government we inherited. To fight for the ideals the Enclave still upholds. And now it walked as the Brotherhood's juggernaut, repurposed, reforged, repainted in their ideology like some trophy. The radio snapped me back to reality. Captain Mercer, Prime sighted. They brought the damn robot. Hold your formations, I barked. Eyes forward, he's just steel. Steel breaks. But as Prime marched closer, the ground trembled beneath our boots. Light posts quivered. Loose rubble danced across the cracked concrete. Even the purifier's support scaffolds groaned under the vibrations. Then Prime reached over his shoulder and pulled one of the massive atomic demolition charges from his back. "Movement!" Sergeant Cole yelled. "He's prepping ordnance!" I slammed into cover behind a fractured pillar. "Get down!" Prime wound back like a pitcher on the 4th of July, servo motors screaming, then hurled the bomb in a sweeping arc toward our western barricade. The thing sailed through the air with a low mechanical whine, trailing dust and grit behind it. For a half-second, I could swear the world held its breath. Then, the basin lit up like a second sun. The shockwave ripped across the memorial grounds, flattening barricades, tossing soldiers like rag dolls, shattering reinforced plating. Heat washed over us in a roaring wave, hot enough to make the air shimmer and bend. I ducked instinctively, arm over my face, uniform sleeve taking the brunt, as the blast shredded the top layers of fabric. The edges curled into char. Heat seared across my shoulder, sharp enough to steal my breath for a moment. Smoke, screaming, sparks raining from ruptured conduits. My ear rang so hard the world felt distant. Through the smoke, I watched what remained of our western line stagger, regroup, then break entirely. Bodies, some whole, some not, littered the scorched ground. "Mercer to all squads. Status!" Echo Squad's channel hissed static. Vector came through faint. Voices panicked. Lance reported 2 dead, 3 badly wounded. The Brotherhood didn't stop. They marched right through the smoke wall, silhouettes outlined by the glow of molten rubble. Prime's next step sent another tremor rolling up through my legs. We opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked across the basin, crackling as they hit Brotherhood armor in bursts of green light. Some staggered, but no one fell. Their formation didn't break, didn't even bend. Behind them, Liberty Prime's optics flared brighter. He was charging something. "Captain," Sergeant Cole said quietly, stepping beside me, breath ragged. What do we do?" I didn't answer right away. I just stared at Prime, watching the glow across his visor sharpen from soft blue to searing white, humming with energy. He raised his head, servo plates realigning, and for the first time in my life, I knew exactly what inevitability looked like. "We hold the line," I finally said. "Until we can't." The basin shook again as Liberty Prime advanced, and Project Purity, for the first time all day, felt small. The first thing I remember after the blast was the sound. Not the ringing in my ears. I'd gotten used to that by then. No, it was the humming. A deep electric charge that prickled along the back of my neck, like standing too close to an overloaded fusion conduit. It grew steadily louder, vibrating the very air. Even the dust motes seemed to tremble. "Captain, Prime's powering something," someone shouted behind me. I didn't need the warning. I'd already seen the glow Liberty Prime stepped through the smoke cloud, each footfall crushing the charred remains of our western barricade. His visor burned an intense blue-white, bright enough to cast long shadows across our defensive line. Brotherhood paladins followed behind him in a disciplined spearhead, silhouettes haloed by sparks and drifting ash. Echo Squad opened fire again, brave, futile, green streaks of plasma hissing across the basin, splashing harmlessly against Prime's armored chassis. He didn't slow, didn't flinch, didn't even acknowledge the hits. That hum crescendoed a sharp, rising whine, then a split second of complete, terrifying quiet, and the world exploded into blue fire. A massive beam of energy erupted from Prime's visor, pure, blinding, cutting straight across the waterline with surgical precision. It carved through a set of barricades like they were paper. The steel plating glowed white-hot, then disintegrated. Soldiers caught in the path vanished in an instant. Their shadows burned into the concrete behind them. It was the cleanest destruction I'd ever seen, and the most horrifying. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The entire battlefield fell into stunned silence, broken only by the crackle of vaporized debris cooling in the air. Then the screaming started. "Fall back! Fall back!" "Vector's gone, Captain. Oh, God! Medic! We need a medic now!" My God, he's cutting us in half. I saw a night sergeant in Brotherhood armor sprint through the smoke, laser rifle raised, visor reflecting the blue glow of Prime's beam. Behind him, another formation stormed the lower steps, firing in organized volleys. They weren't advancing cautiously. They weren't probing. This was a blitz. We were being buried. "Echo! Lance! On me!" I shouted, voice hoarse. "We're collapsing inward. Hold the rotunda entrance. We make our stand there." Some of them ran for me immediately. Others stumbled, dazed, dragging wounded comrades. A few never got up, just lay motionless amid the steam vents erupting from ruptured pipes. As I backed toward the rotunda, a burst of laser fire struck the pillar beside me. Superheated stone sprayed across my face. My shoulder, already burned from Prime's bomb, took another grazing hit, dropping me to one knee. The uniform fabric scorched away in a fresh curl of black. For a moment, everything narrowed to a tunnel, just pain and heat and the taste of dust on my tongue. Cole hauled me up by the arm. "Captain, eyes up! We need to move!" I forced myself back to my feet, blinking hard, focusing past the sting. get the last of Lance inside. We hold the entrance long enough to regroup." He nodded, firing a pulse round past my head, the blue bolt spiraling into a paladin's visor and staggering him. The rotunda loomed behind us, its interior lit by emergency lamps, its walls shaking from the bombardment outside. The hum of the purifier below thrummed like a heartbeat, steady but strained. As our surviving squads funneled inward, the Brotherhood pressed closer. Plasma fire lit the air with green bursts. Laser rifles painted red streaks across the smoke. The sound rolled together, a storm of crackling energy and shouted orders. Then Prime's footsteps drew near again, a deep, thunderous rhythm, like war drums. Every instinct in me screamed to get deeper inside, to put concrete and steel between myself and that machine. But a captain doesn't get that luxury, not until his people are safe. "Move!" I ordered. "Inside! Inside! Go!" One trooper, Private Elson, hesitated on the steps, firing desperately at an advancing paladin. A streak of blue light cut past him, and for a horrifying moment I thought Prime's beam had taken him. But no. A chunk of the memorial facade sheared loose above him, collapsing in a cascade of dust and broken marble. It crushed him instantly. I didn't have time to react, didn't have time to mourn. "Cole, sound off," I shouted as we cleared the rotunda threshold. "We're down to 2 from Echo, 3 from Lance," he answered, breath sharp and shaking. "Vector's gone. Completely gone. 6 soldiers. Out of 32, and the Brotherhood was still coming." Inside, the rotunda's air felt heavier, steamed from ruptured pipes, lit by the flicker of sparking conduits. The purifier's central chamber thrummed beneath the metal grates, as if the ancient machine understood the violence raging overhead. Through the smoke, Liberty Prime loomed, blue visor burning like a lighthouse beacon, cutting through the chaos with cold, mechanical certainty. That thing should have been ours, built for our purpose, restored by our hands. Seeing it stride toward the memorial, tearing down everything we'd built here, filled me with a fury so sharp it was almost blinding. "Captain," Cole said, voice steadying. "Orders?" I looked at him, then at the remains of the squads huddled behind cover, faces streaked with soot and terror. "We hold this chamber," I said quietly. "We hold it until the last of us is gone, or until we can reach the vertibird pad. And God willing, Adam's AFB would still be listening." Outside, Prime's footsteps shook the walls again, and Act 3 ended with the truth settling in my chest like a stone. We weren't holding the line anymore. We were surviving it. The rotunda shook again, dust drifting from the cracked ceiling in long gray ribbons. Every tremor meant Liberty Prime had taken another step closer. Every step meant our perimeter was collapsing in real time. Every collapse meant fewer voices on the comms. We weren't a force anymore. We were what was left. I pressed 2 fingers against my earpiece, cycling channels. Echo, static, Vector, gone, Central Command, silent. Only the local squad net remained. Cole crouched beside me behind a scorched terminal brace. Plasma rifle braced across his knee. His visor lenses were cracked from blast debris. Sweat streaked through soot down his jawline. "Captain," he said quietly, "we're outnumbered 10 to 1. Maybe more." I watched the shadows shifting beyond the entryway. Brotherhood shapes sweeping methodically across the chamber outside. Their laser fire flashed like red lightning across the broken marble. Each time they advanced another few meters, we felt the heat pulse through the doorway. "They'll breach in 60 seconds, I murmured. Maybe less. One of the younger soldiers, Private Henley, swallowed hard, his hands trembling as he reloaded. "Sir, do we have a fallback point inside?" "No," I answered. "There's nothing left to fall back to." The truth landed heavily on all of us. but no one ran. That's when Liberty Prime's voice rolled through the memorial, booming through the shattered structure like a loudspeaker from the heavens. Establishing U.S. dominance. The sound rattled the bones in my chest. Then, another bomb launched. You don't forget that sound once you've heard it. The mechanical wind-up, the shriek of metal, the hollow whistle as it arcs. Every soldier knows when death is airborne. Down, I shouted. Too late. The bomb detonated somewhere above and behind us. The rotunda's upper gallery blew open in a fireball, raining molten shrapnel. A chunk of reinforced railing slammed into Corporal Rashad, crushing him before he even had time to scream. Cole dragged me behind the reinforced valve housing as another tremor shook the chamber. My shoulder, the burned one, flared white-hot as the movement tore at the blistered fabric. "Captain," Henley cried, pointing at the entrance. "They're inside." He wasn't wrong. Brotherhood Knights breached our position in a tight, disciplined sweep. Rifles raised, visors glowing with HUD readouts. Their first volley tore through our cover. Sparks erupted across the metal brace beside me. Bits of shattered tile peppered my face. "Return fire," I barked. We did. Green plasma bolts tore through the smoke, splashing across Brotherhood armor, staggering the lead knight. Cole landed a clean shot that melted through a joint in one soldier's plating, dropping him. Henley screamed something incoherent and kept firing until his rifle overheated. But the Brotherhood just kept coming. I saw movement to my left, Private Keeley breaking from cover, trying to drag the wounded Rashad back. A laser beam caught her across the hip, spinning her and sending her crashing against the far wall. She didn't get back up. The chamber shook again. Prime advancing closer, his massive shadow flooded the hallways, cast by the flickering blue of his visor. Every step vibrated up through the metal catwalks. I turned to the survivors, 5 left, and only because the other 27 had already died, buying us seconds. "On me," I ordered. "We're pulling back to the vertibird pad now." Cole didn't hesitate. He grabbed Henley by the collar and shoved him toward the rear access corridor. 2 others, Davis and Rook, fell in behind me, guarding our retreat with suppressive fire. The corridor lights flickered, columns groaning overhead as the structural integrity collapsed inch by inch. Steam hissed from ruptured pipes, turning the air into a clinging, metallic fog. Halfway down the hall, the Brotherhood fired into the passageway, streaks of red lancing down its length. One hit Rook square in the back as he turned to fire again. He convulsed, armor sizzling, and fell face first onto the grated floor. "I leave him," I shouted, voice cracking despite myself. "Move!" The last 4 of us ran, boots slamming against the metal grates, while the chamber behind us drowned in weapons. Fire Prime's footsteps echoed like rolling thunder. The visor beam screeched to life again, its hum so intense it rattled the ribcage. We rounded the corner toward the exterior access, light from the basin flooding in through fractured walls. The vertibird sat ahead on the designated landing pad, rotors idle, dust swirling beneath it. Our evac pilot must have stayed against orders, waiting for any survivors to make it out. "Cole, get them in," I yelled. He pushed Davis and Henley forward, practically throwing Henley up the ramp. I fired down the hall behind us, forcing the Brotherhood to take cover. Their return volley hit the wall just inches from my head, showering me in tile fragments. Cole vaulted into the vertibird, turning back, hand outstretched. "Captain, move!" I sprinted the final stretch, half limping from the burn on my shoulder, lungs burning from smoke, heart slamming against my ribs. As I grabbed Cole's wrist and climbed aboard, another tremor hit, nearly knocking all of us to the deck. The pilot didn't wait. The vertibird's engine screamed to life, rotors kicking dust into swirling cyclones as we lifted off laser fire streaked past the hull. Something exploded under us, shockwave slamming the aircraft sideways. But we were airborne. We survived 5. Just 5. As we banked away from the memorial, I dragged myself toward the open side hatch, scorched uniform hanging off my arm, shoulder throbbing with every movement. "Captain," Henley whispered behind me, voice raw. "Don't look." But I did. And what I saw, what I'll carry with me to Adams AFB, was a nightmare carved into history. Liberty Prime marched through the basin, his enormous silhouette framed by blue fire and collapsing stone. Brotherhood paladins swarmed behind him like steel shadows. Every step cracked the ground. Every sweep of his visor sent another blinding lance of energy through our last defensive positions. Project Purity was lost, and the Enclave's hopes with it. I stayed there in the hatch, gripping the frame with burned fingers, until the memorial was just a distant glow behind the smoke. Only then did I start the recording. This is Captain Isaac Mercer, Enclave Armed Forces, recording en route to Adams Air Force Base. We're airborne now. The memorial is fading behind us, swallowed by smoke and fire and ruins. I can still feel the heat of it through the vertebrate's hull, like the battle left a scorch mark on the sky itself. The cabin lights flicker every few seconds. One of the consoles up front is sparking from shrapnel damage. The rotor pitch keeps dipping, like the engine isn't sure it wants to keep going. Henley sits strapped in across from me, helmet off, staring numbly at the floor. His cheeks are streaked with dust, and tears he probably doesn't remember shedding. Cole is beside me, breathing hard, watching the hatch, not saying a word. We all know what we left behind. The rotunda, the bodies, the lines we couldn't hold, everything we were meant to protect. I shift my arm slightly and wince. My uniform is so scorched it flakes when I move. The burn along my shoulder is still hot, the edges cracked and raw. The fabric underneath is curled like blackened paper. I can see exposed, blistered skin beneath it. Not deep, but enough to leave a reminder. A reminder that the Brotherhood didn't just push us back. They scarred us. Outside, the wind hisses through the open side hatch. The city rolls beneath us in broken geometry. Collapsed overpasses, gutted buildings, rebar sticking up like skeletal fingers. In the distance, the white dome of the Capitol gleams faintly, cracked and pitted by 2 centuries of decay. For a moment, a brief moment, the world almost looks peaceful from up here. Then the vertebrate banks, and Project Purity comes back into view, and peace dies. Smoke blankets the basin in thick, roiling waves. Fires dance across the ruins like embers inside a dying forge. The Brotherhood's paladins move in practiced lines, sweeping the remaining halls with ruthless precision. But all of that, every soldier, every shot, every spark, is just background noise to the thing towering over everything. Liberty Prime. He stands in the water, massive and unshakable, like a monument carved out of war itself. His visor glows bright blue, cutting through the smoke like a beacon from a world we lost. Each time it pulses, the water around him ripples outward in perfect rings. He turns. Slow, deliberate, mechanical. His optics track upward toward us, not a threat, not a target. Just a consequence of his towering presence. For a second, his visor catches a break in the smoke, illuminating half the basin in a wash of cold light. And in that reflection, I see the broken barricades, the charred bodies, the melted steel, the place I swore to defend. Gone. A symbol of American engineering, a weapon built for defense, a machine designed for the government we inherited, now being used to tear down everything we've tried to rebuild. My stomach tightens, my jaw clenches. Henley looks up at me from across the cabin, eyes glassy. "Sir, Is it over? I force my gaze from the hatch and turn back to him. No, I say. My voice is low, firm, steady. It's not over. Not while we still draw breath. He swallows, nods, looks down again. Cole leans closer, voice barely audible over the engine whine. Adams, AFB, you really think we have something left there? Enough to fight with? I let the question hang in the air for a moment. Not because I don't know the answer, but because saying it out loud makes it real. We don't have a choice, I tell him. Adams is what's left the last foothold. We regroup there, we reorganize, and we take back what was stolen. A second of silence. Cole nods once, hard. Resolute, for the first time since the memorial exploded beneath us, something flickers in his expression. Not hope, not relief. Resolve. I feel it too. Burning beneath the pain and exhaustion. A steady, unbroken ember. The Enclave isn't dead. Not yet. Not while men like us still believe in the America we're trying to rebuild. I shift again, trying to steady my breathing. The vertibird shudders as it climbs through another gust. Somewhere behind us, a fireball rises, briefly illuminating the basin like a flare. Liberty Prime's voice carries faintly through the air, muffled by distance, but unmistakable. Mission: the destruction of all enemies of the United States. I close my eyes, not in fear, but in anger. That's our mission, I whisper, not theirs, never theirs. Ahead of us, through the windshield glow, the shape of Adams Air Force Base emerges in the distance. A dark, sprawling shadow against the horizon, waiting for whoever survives long enough to reach it. Pilot, I call out hoarsely, gripping the ribbed metal beside my seat. Get us there in one piece. He doesn't reply, but the vertibird tilts forward sharply, engines straining. The base grows closer, and I end the log here. Not with defeat, not with surrender, but with a promise.